Welcome along to the latest edition of the Irish F1 show in association with PFT Travel. As always, you see the QR code down the corner there as well. That is our Buy Me a Coffee link. If you want to support the efforts of the lads over the year ahead, that's it. Baz is pointing to it there. You can buy us a coffee there and support the efforts. Rapco HQ is Barry's backdrop there. It's looking well, Baz. Actually, it's nice to showcase it here to our audience.
Yeah, just it's a little bit quiet here at the moment, so I snuck up to the studio here to get the podcast done. Bit of a madhouse downstairs.
Yeah, that's it. A bit of a madhouse in general, I think, this Irish F1 show. But unfortunately, there's nothing really mad or hectic about what's happening in terms of our action and racing. Because I literally said off air there, guys, we couldn't really copy and paste the last episode into this, with by and large anyway, I would say, for the most part. Because it's just devoid of any excitement. And I hate being negative. It's not my style. But it's just calling it as it is. Baz, I've seen a tweet from you. You said something about watching IndyCar, F1. And I can't think what the other thing was. But F1 was by far the most boring anyway.
A bit of a racing weekend. So there was IndyCar, Indy Next, with Irish driver James Rowe finishing fifth in the Top Con car. And then there was the GB3 Championship, which is F3 by another name, British F3, British GB3, with another Irish guy, Alex Dunne, taking the championship lead at Snetterton this weekend, which is great for him. He's F4, reigning British F4 champion and now leading GB3, despite having some bad luck. So, and then the F1, and yeah, of all of that racing that I watched, it was the F1 was the one that was least enthralling, to put it that way.
Richie, did you see any of those other races, or was it just the F1?
I seen a small bit of the Indy Next, James Rowe's race. He done very well. Fair play to him. Just seeing the results of Alex's race where he took the lead of the championship. Fair play to him. I hope he goes on to win it. But yeah, the F1 was the real low light of the weekend as regards motorsport.
Richie, sorry, I'm laughing at you moving around there. I don't know, you're going around Mandela yourself, but
I'm actually moving the van here. I'm on a building site here at the moment. I'm moving the van out of the way.
Before it gets clobbered by a wrecking ball. Yeah, but no, look, in all seriousness, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Jesus, everyone's getting advertising today. JCB, Rapco, the whole lot. Yeah, James and Alex, well done. I suppose we've remarked upon Alex in particular over the past 12 months. So that's very, very positive. So at this particular juncture, is he getting a little bit closer to his dream goal? It seems to be going in a very good trajectory, Barry.
Yeah, he's doing great. Yeah, I spoke to his father Noel, who I know a long time there last week. So yeah, they've definitely taken a turn. They had a little bit of car trouble in the opening rounds, a problem with the car that they identified, which explained why he was just that small bit off the pace in the opening round. So they fixed that, and they had a lot of pace at Silverstone for the previous round of the championship, but just a bit of bad luck. He was taken out of what would have been the race lead in one of the races. But then they went to Spa about 3 weeks ago, and Alex he won 2 of the 3 races, and the third race is a reverse grid, and he came from, I don't know what it was, 24th up to 5th or 6th or something. So he was it was the highest scoring round ever in the history of the championship for Alex that weekend. He scored more points that weekend than anyone has ever done in the past. So that brought him into contention going into Snetterton last weekend, and he had a lot of pace. He had the front running pace in testing, but just a little bit off the boil in qualifying, left on the second row. So he had a couple of seconds, and I think 8th or 9th place in the result. So so basically, that was Alex into the championship lead, and hopefully he can keep it going now and take the F4 and the GB3 championship one year after the other.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to have to get a hands here for you two boys. There's lots of head movement going on there.
A lot going on.
Yeah, it's all happens to you. So let's delve into this race, I suppose, guys, from Canada at the weekend. Would the only thing be that you could, I suppose, the only thing that you could possibly remark upon, have Aston Martin gotten a little bit closer, or is this kind of a false dawn as such with how close they did get to Max, I suppose, with Fernando, Richie?
Yeah, no, they're certainly getting closer. It's not fake in any way, shape, or form. In fairness to Lawrence Stroll, he's pumping the money into the team, and it's showing dividends. Like, I'd say they'll definitely take a win before the season is out at some stage with Alonso. But yeah, they're getting closer. I'd just like to see him get much closer, much quicker.
Yeah, so 9 seconds in the end is all he was off Verstappen, Alonso, and again, himself and Hamilton had a nice little tussle, and that's probably one of the positive things, Richie, yeah?
Yeah, it was good to see the two old stagers back at it again at the front of the grid, in fairness. Maybe Lewis let him, well, he couldn't do a whole lot about the overtake, in fairness, but yeah, it'd be nice to see those two boys back hustling one another for the season, definitely.
Yeah, someone said, Barry, it was a crofty that they're a combined age of nearly 8 years of age, but they're still serving it up and providing one of the few highlights, aren't they?
Yeah, it was good. Alonso and Hamilton. It was good to see them, a bit of mutual respect on the podium there from both of them. But it's just a pity, I suppose. Max is walking away so much at the front of it. It takes their attention away. I think I seen something the other day that if you remove Max from the championship, it was all like the next three are within a couple of points of each other. For second, but in this hypothetical, it was for the lead of the championship. But look, can't be helped. We're in an era of domination, from one car to the other. It's just the nature of the sport these days, I think, unfortunately. And if it's not Red Bull dominating, it'll be Mercedes, and maybe someday it'll be Ferrari and Aston Martin. But it does seem to be that it's always going to be one far ahead of the rest.
Yeah, I suppose myself and Richie were chatting there, Baz, like going back to 12 months ago and trying to consider whether, was it really, are we overestimating how boring it is this year? Was it as boring last year? Was it as much? You know what I mean? The stats are stats or whatever, but it seemed like what myself and Richie agreed on was that Ferrari had the speed, but just didn't have the reliability. But nobody seems to have what's needed this year. Is that something you go along with?
Yeah, I think that just Red Bull is just another step further ahead. Ferrari were quicker last year, and they kind of made it difficult for themselves, and that's kind of brought Red Bull into the fight, and then they eventually put it away towards the second half of the season. But now this year, it's just, no one's doing anything as good as Red Bull. Perez aside, maybe he's not exactly having a stormer the last while, but look, their car is quicker, their strategies are better, their execution is better, their drivers, you could say, are better. The driver, and it's Verstappen, that is. So I think it's just a combination of all of those factors. It's just, resulting in them just driving away from the front every weekend.
Mm-hmm. Alex Albon, 7th. Another big story, I suppose, to emerge in the weekend, Richie.
Yeah, great drive from Alex, in fairness. Was it quali 2? He finished top of quali 2 on Saturday. So, in fairness, Albon, always great. He's one of the great drivers on the grid, in fairness to him. When he was with Red Bull that time, I don't know whether the team let him down or he let himself down or the pressure of being with the work team got to him, but he seems to excel in lesser cars, and the weekend just proved that again. Like 7th for a Williams is fair going. I know they had upgrades this weekend, but still that's fair going for a Williams car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely driver of the day for me. And he did one stop 50 something laps on the one set of tires with no DRS, and kept a whole host of what should have been faster cars behind them. So and the pressure, of course, of having the car with the only car with all the upgrades on it, and was told basically don't crash it because we've nothing to fix it with. So yeah, it's a great result and just shows the class he has. And I think Williams will be doing well to hold on to him, I think, coming into the next few years, because he'll be on top of a lot of people's shopping list, I think, in that mid-pack.
Mm-hmm. And Richie, in fairness, Richie, like you said last year, nearly in the first episode, that you were a fan of Alex Albon's, like that. You thought maybe he got perhaps a little bit of a raw deal with Red Bull, but I mean, there's no such thing as getting a raw deal or not getting a raw deal. You have to perform, and that's it. Like, and neither him or Gasly performed that time, and that's just the way it was. But it didn't really make, it doesn't make either of those two drivers bad drivers. It's just at that time in their careers, I would say they're probably not in the headspace to be ready for the opportunity. Whereas if you look at where Perez was when he stepped into the Red Bull, you're talking a completely different stage of career, yeah?
Yeah, there's probably a couple of things to take into play. Now sort of what we know, like if you join the Red Bull team at the moment, where Max is number one and always will be number one and will take preference in the team, effectively, like when Perez joined Red Bull, he was told that he was given Max's car, Max's set up and told to get on with it, where it proved it didn't suit him. So maybe something similar happened with Albon, where he never really settled into the job, and then being Max's teammate is a whole different ball game in that team. You know, I heard David Coulthard say on his podcast with Eddie Jordan the other day that back in the day when he was in talks with Ferrari, he turned Ferrari down for the simple reason part of his contract stated that if he was first and Schumacher was fourth, he had to make sure Schumacher finished ahead of him. You know, that type of scenario. So he turned Ferrari down. So it could be a similar scenario with Red Bull where Max just takes preference to everything. Like,
I think with Max, you have a situation whereby obviously he's lightning fast. He's the number one driver in the team, but he also drives a very specific setup of car that no one else can really handle. So if he was in a more, it's very much on the nose. It's all front end and at the back end, you know, you have to have your reactions in line to keep the back end in shape. And it's a tricky car for anyone else to drive. I think Perez got a bit of a false dawn because in the original car from last year, it wasn't fully to Max's liking. It was a bit more of a kind of standard setup, if you like, standard balance. So a sort of car that more drivers could handle. And that's why you're seeing Perez kind of looking like he was doing the best relative to all the other teammates. I think now that he's in a Max spec car, we're seeing the real gulf between them, which is the same as what we've seen with the other drivers that you've mentioned there, Albon and Gasly and whoever else was in with him, even Ricciardo to a point. So I think it's I think it's just a case of Perez got lucky towards the start of last year. In that he had a car that he was able that didn't suit Max specifically, and now it's different kettle of fish when he has to try and tame the car set up for Verstappen.
Mm-hmm. Only a couple of seconds between the two Ferraris. Leclerc just ahead. There was talk of strategy there at one stage. What do you think that strategy was, lads? That was at a time I think where Sainz was obviously pushing a little bit quicker and was quicker. I think, wasn't he, at the time?
I mean, it was a strategy for Ferrari.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know if you could put those two words into one sentence, Ferrari and strategy, but just Ferrari leaning to Leclerc again, basically. That's what it looked like to me, anyway.
Baz?
Yeah, I think it was. I think they were kind of making up as they go along, as they always do, and there was no real solid plan. And I know Sainz was saying he had a bit more pace and he wanted to get ahead, but you know, he'd been dragged around by DRS. But I think there's another overall relatively poor showing from Ferrari. You know, they're getting a bit too excited to be fourth and fifth. You know, that's not good enough at the end of the day. So they need to, you know, there's no point in high-fiving each other for finishing fourth and fifth in a Ferrari. That's, you know,
failure.
Fool anyone like.
yeah, of course. Just speaking of Ferrari and Leclerc in particular, what did you make of the whole stance taken by the Villeneuve family? Leclerc obviously wanted to wear a helmet in tribute to Gilles Villeneuve. Didn't get the nod of approval. Any particular take on that?
It's very hard to know, isn't it? It's. I mean, as I'm a big Villeneuve fan. I have a replica of his helmet in the house, and I don't know. Maybe I need to tell them and ask them, can people look at it in the future in the front door, like, because it seems. I don't know. It's hard to know. I remember years ago, it was a bit of a running joke in F1 circles that in one of the F1 games in '98 or '97 or something, you know, like the F1 video game that is.
Williams number one.
Well, there was no Jacques Villeneuve in the game.
Yeah, it was called Williams number one. Yeah.
No, he's another name. John Newhouse.
Yes, that's in. So F1 97 or 98. Yeah, F1 97 or 98 he was Williams number one, and in that other game he was that name you were talking about. I can't think of the name of the game.
Yeah, well, maybe it wasn't F1. It was John Newhouse. So it seems that the Villeneuve name and rights is a bit of a thing, you know, because he wouldn't let them use his name. It was 20, all the other drivers, whatever 20 odd of them there was, and then this John Newhouse fictional character who looked an awful lot like Jacques Villeneuve and drive the other Williams, but wasn't Jacques Villeneuve, obviously. So I mean, I don't know, maybe there's something going on there. Apparently his sister looks after all the rights to the name and stuff, and she was not informed. And then I believe Leclerc made contact directly with Jack, and then in turn with the sister and the mother, who was Joanne, I think, who would have been Gilles' wife, who I thought it was settled. So did he not wear the helmet in the end? I missed that. I thought he was wearing it. He didn't wear the Villeneuve helmet in the end, no?
I'm actually not too sure in the lead up to it, to be quite honest. I was just looking at all this noise that was made in the run up to it, which I don't know, was it a distraction or was it not? But it was certainly an issue. I don't know what actually did happen in the end. I can't consolidate that for sure, but a lot of noise was made about it, you know.
I think there's probably mistakes made on both sides. I mean, you would have thought Ferrari would have at least let them know it's trademark issues and whatnot. And I think the original accusation was that the Ferrari sponsors were getting publicity out of this off the back of the Gilles Villeneuve, because obviously people were photographing and publishing pictures of the helmet. So I think that was the Villeneuve angle. So yeah, I mean, you would have thought that the PR people and the communications people in Ferrari would have at least made them aware of it. But then at the end of the day, you know, it's the circuit Gilles Villeneuve they were racing on. He was a Ferrari driver. Leclerc's a big fan of his, and he's wearing his helmet in tribute. I don't think it was the biggest crime against the legacy of Gilles Villeneuve ever committed. And, you know, I say that as a massive Gilles Villeneuve fan. So I think it was a little bit of much ado about nothing, to be honest.
Yeah. The F1 game I was talking about there was actually a cheat code I was reading whereby Murray Walker would save Villeneuve if you found a cheat code. Yeah, that was the interesting thing. I'd say those conversations were tasty at the time, you know, because it was a little bit ridiculous. I mean, there was 19 others that were willing to give their name, but that's not exclusive to F1. Ronaldo, the soccer player, I don't like calling him this, but people call him Fat Ronaldo. He wouldn't give his name in the late 90s either. He was just number 9, and there was a big issue around that. Like, and yeah, I'd say the fee put up must be tasty, but yeah, it's just one of those things, I guess.
It's not like they're stuck for the few quid, the Ronaldos in this world. But like the Villeneuves, I can kind of understand, because when Gilles died, he would have let, you know, he had a young family, and it would have been up to his wife and the estate to, you know, to extract whatever income they could going forward, because obviously, you know, he passed on. But to get, you know, the Ronaldos of this world with $500,000 a week, like, does it really matter? Probably not.
No. Rich doesn't give a shit. He's gone. I think he's under a bit of pressure. Look, have we anything else to add, Barry, do you think, before I draw a close to this, which is on course to be the shortest?
Well, it wasn't a whole lot. That's the pity about it, you know. It's not. It's just where F1 is at the moment. Unfortunately, that we've said it before. You know, there's the cars are too big, the cars are too heavy. You've got to, you know, unless what we're waiting on something to happen. The only things that can happen to make it interesting is something completely random, like a rain shower or a crash at the wrong time, or a safety car, or, you know, at an opportune moment. But I think the days of just on track natural racing, they seem to be getting further away rather than closer, which is the real pity of the whole thing. So I know they're talking about the new regs in 2026, so we're going to make the cars lighter. And I think the aim, and they won't reach this, the aim is 35 kilos lighter. I mean, waste of time. That's nothing, you know. It's on a 900 kilo car, 35 kilos is, you know, it's nothing. It's irrelevant. So they don't even look to be trying to fix it going forward. So I think, unfortunately, we could be in for a bit of an era of just processional racing outside of the weekends where something really random happens. You know, like it's on a lap just before someone makes a pit stop or stuff like that. But yeah, I'd love to be wrong, but it doesn't look like it's going that way at all.
Mm-hmm. Rich, we're on course to wrap this up. Have you anything else to
add? Maybe make it mandatory that all race circuits have to have sprinkler systems, and we can turn them on and off at random points during a race there, just to
spice it up.
It's just like we had some rain and you know, in qualifying. The qualifying was super exciting. I thought it was very, very good. But then you come to the race and we were just messaging each other. It's like they're told, just keep yourself to yourself for the first lap or two. Let it settle down, and then just don't attempt to overtake anyone, whatever you do.
Like, I mean, I know it's common enough nowadays for people to take out the phone, have a scroll, whatever their sport of preference is, maybe to find out a little bit of information or see maybe what people are thinking about it. But when it gets to the stage where the scroll is more exciting than what's happening to your left hand side on the screen, then there's a bit of an issue. Like, and that's how I found it the last few while. You know what I mean? Like, even that thing about the helmet, like I didn't even notice that was if you went with it or not. And to be honest with you, I didn't really care either. Like, that's the whole thing with it. And it's sad to say that and admit that, but it's just like, you know what? That's nearly one of the big talking points, and it shouldn't be one of the big talking points. We should be talking about how good the racing is and all different things, but we just don't have it to talk about. All we have to do is give out about it. And I know everyone on a podcast gives out every now and then, and we'll criticize this and we'll criticize that. It was rules last year. It'll be something else. But the racing was always the common thing that was something that, you know, was interesting, like, or kind of meaningful or something. Just doesn't seem to be the case. So look, we have a couple of weeks now, and Austria's on the horizon, and then you obviously have Silverstone on the horizon after that. Lads, I think we may just keep going with trying to get a few big heads on here. And well, mine is massive as it is, but as in a few celebrities, that is, like we had earlier in the year, to keep things spiced up, because it doesn't look like the race is going to make it happen anytime soon.
Yeah, unfortunately. Sure, look, maybe we'll change it to the Irish Indy Show or something.
You wouldn't know. And we combine indie music with indie racing, and we get them all on. Kaiser Chiefs 1 week, Stereophonics the next week. You name it, we get it, boys. Listen, Richie, Barry, we'll leave it at that. We'll give a shout out to PFT Travel and to Rapco again. Thanks a million, guys. We'll chat to you all soon.
Bye-bye.